Welcome, horror fam, to HHN 365, a Halloween Horror Nights podcast. My name is Mike, and as always, I'm here with my co-hosts, Duff and Jonathan. Still no Jess, but she'll be coming round the mountain
And when she comes,
when she comes in a week or two.
Yeah. I'll stop.
Have not to get too off base, but it's over now. But if you had not watched Miracle Workers with Daniel Radcliffe, there's a coming around she mountains musical number that's one of the best things that's happened to television.
Oh, I need to watch that. Actually, I've been meaning to.
Oh, it's so good, so good. It's over now, but Miracle Workers, go back and watch it. It's worth it. Today's show is not about the Miracle Workers. As much as I would love to start a Miracle Workers podcast, we are going to be discussing all the new news that has come out over the last week, as well as taking a deep look at Dark Universe and all the announcements that came with Epic Universe. Let's hop into it. But before we do, as always, you can find us on Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube at HHN365 and on TikTok at HHN365pod. We have a Discord that you can join us, and the link is in the description. And we have a merch shop that you can check out at HHN365.com. And you can always leave us a voicemail at 407-906-4134. All right, let's hop into it. Where should we start?
I guess in Orlando, where I think we had a pretty fun little, not Easter egg, but like a little game, if you will, from Horror Nights. You may remember that on all the house permits there were corresponding code names. Well, it has been found that those code names have been used in all of the URLs for the house announcements on the Discovery Universal blog, as well as on the Ghostbusters shirt. They have s'mores right on the tag.
Yeah,
right
it's
on the
just
price
right there
tag.
on the tag.
Explicitly the Ghostbusters shirt, not the Quiet Place one. That Quiet Place one has no code name on it.
No,
Just the Ghostbusters one.
Cookies is a little long. Quiet is shorter, to be fair.
yeah, it's true. But anyways, in the URLs, we did get the code names for all 8 of the announced houses. So I'm just going to run through those real quick. Monstros, the Monsters of Latin America, will be Soundstage 23A. A Quiet Place will be Soundstage 22. Ghostbusters Frozen Empire, Soundstage 23B. Triplets of Terror, Soundstage 24B. Major Sweets Candy Factory will be Fast and Furious.
Fuck.
Goblin's Feast in Sprung Tent 4. Slaughter Cinema 2, Sprung Tent 2. And the Museum Deadly Exhibits in Sprung Tent 1. Of course, we are still waiting on the final 2 announcements to fully match up those code names. I will say, from what we think and what speculation currently is looking at, we'll have the Universal Monsters house in Sprung Tent number 3. So then, if you do the math there, Insidious would bring you back to Soundstage 24. I don't think that's not really math. If you can find an equation that does that for you, kudos. But yeah, that's a kind of a fun thing. Does it mean anything? No.
I mean,
But,
it
like-
means something. It means we
Yeah,
know
it means
exactly what the
something.
houses are.
But it's funny because typically after we get all the announcements, like the last thing people do are like, all right, where is everything? Oh, that's gone this year. Once we know everything, we just know everything.
Yeah. What an interesting, announcement season, it's been so far. Like, the fact that we now know, Universal themselves literally confirmed where 8 of these houses are going to be, is absolutely wild. I don't, remember anything, they have given hints in the past about where houses were before, right? Or was there just, hints with code names or whatever?
So they have previously, if you go back to the past, 10 years ago, something like that, it was very much like what John Murdy does now, and will just straight up confirm stuff for you on Twitter and social media. They've done it different ways, but yeah, they just used to confirm it to you. But since then, in the more recent or modern era, if you will, it's just been a guessing game in Orlando for us.
Yeah, not this year though. This year they're straight up telling us, which I think is really fun. And I'm curious, now that we know the exact locations for 8 of these houses, how are we feeling about them? Do we feel like the houses that are here that are in sound stages deserve sound stages? Are the ones that are in sprung tents deserve sprung tents? Or uh, why Major Sweets doesn't belong in Fast and Furious. Like, do you have any thoughts like about any of these locations?
I, I, it's tough to judge whether like it's quote unquote deserved until you see
Mhm.
it. Of course, I will say the one thing that does stand out to me is that we're kind of going back to the older way of laying out the IPs.
Yeah, put
So
them all
Mm.
kind of in the front.
the main three IPs will be right up in front in the sound stages. You'll have Universal Monsters in the back, of course, but Universal Monsters isn't like a headlining IP, if you will. The three headlining IPs all right up in front, and
I,
it's been well, what was the last time they did that? Like 29,
Yeah, I think
right?
so.
yeah,
Yeah, to have them all just right there. Yeah, I think it was last time it was
Yep,
29.
yeah, and I mean prior to that it was pretty common too. Um, but yeah, that was the last time that's happened. So kind of interesting to see us go back that direction. And who knows? That could not have any intention. It could be just how they wanted to lay out the houses and what worked best completely. But interesting nonetheless.
I'm curious how it affects the flow of the park. Like for us,
Oh,
you
you know
know,
how it you know how it affects the flow.
yeah, yeah. I think for us, who really like originals, especially this year when it's probably leading to a more, original heavy year compared to the IPs that are announced slash rumored. I think this year might be nice to be like in the back of the park is just like kind of dead for a while, especially with the houses there that I think a lot of us are really excited for. I mean, uh, rumored monsters, Slaughter Cinema 2, Museum. Like I think for a lot of the event, that back area is going to be, and it usually is, but it's going to be like a really great place for like HHN original fans or to hang out in.
Dare I say, Duff Garden's Stay and Scream is coming back on the top.
It,
Probably.
without
Yeah.
a big IP there, I mean, yeah, it actually could be a viable location again.
It was pretty bogged down and honestly terrible the way they've been doing it in the past few years with the massive queues in it for the IPs. Get rid of those. I don't think you're getting those massive queues at all. So we
No,
No,
might go
no.
back to the old days where you used to just chill there, you and 100 of your best friends, and just walk over to the Sprung tents when it opens up.
just walk straight to Slaughter Cinema and start your
Yep.
night the best
Yep.
way possible.
Yep. The amount of times I would hit Slaughter Cinema in that rotation from Duff Gardens in 2018, I'll get to relive that hopefully this year.
Literally the same location too.
Hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. Before we move on, can we talk about something that I find interesting?
Yes, please.
I find interesting just like so. I someone must be really proud of these code names because is this the first year that they have been like just so just like open and honest about like these code names and like putting them into URLs and accidentally putting them on tags and stuff. Like, have we ever gotten like just so just like full transparency like this on these code names? Because this is the first time I can think of it.
Not
Spending.
since they literally used to give us the code names to try to figure stuff out, which is we're talking over 10 years ago was the last time that would have happened. Now that was a long time ago, um, and this is quite different than just doing that too, right? You know, they're like shoving it somewhere for us to find,
Yeah,
and it's just giving us locations. It's not like previously it's like here's a code name, maybe you'll figure out what the house is. Now it's like here's a code name, you can match it up with the house location.
yeah. Someone's definitely proud of these code names.
Oh yeah, yeah.
They're showing them off.
I guess the question is because we've discussed this, and I know Jonathan might have a slightly differing opinion. Was this done on purpose? So looking at the URL and the one shirt it's been on, were one of these purposely done, or did some weird thing happen with marketing and merch, and they accidentally threw stuff? And
I think it's on purpose. It has to be on
yeah,
purpose.
I
It's
do, I do. I think Jonathan has a potentially different thought about the shirt, which I think
Yes.
there's credence to it. But I will say URLs, I fully believe are on purpose. It's not
Yeah.
a mistake.
I completely agree. I think especially like looking at how they did it and how long they were kept there, like it wasn't just like, oh they were up one time and the next day someone's like, "Oh shit," and took them off or like so some weird whatever. These were on the URLs for a while. Like like we took a while posting about it, but like these were on the like ever since the blog was put up, these were on the URLs and they never left, which is kind of wild. You think if that was someone would catch that almost immediately, once they got posted or whatever. But yeah, I agree. The s'mores on the shirt is the only thing that I'm kind of iffy on, because on the Quiet Place shirt they did not have the code name on there at all, and this was the first one. Like, all right, here, put s'mores on it. I think that one might have been like a mix-up. We're really not gonna know until we get, I guess, our next IP shirt, and if it has the code name on there, if it just says, I don't know, what's a funny word for Insidious they can put on there. I have no idea. Whatever.
It probably would just be a shortened version of the word Insidious. That's usually what they do.
Insa.
Yeah, they usually just like
Insa period.
So I do think we'll get to that when we ever get our next IP. But I do think s'mores might have been a mistake, because Quiet Place did not have the code name; it just said Quiet. But the URLs themselves, which are the most important part of this segment here, I think were probably definitely on purpose at this point.
Mm-hmm.
What is Insidious's rumored code name?
It would be. Wait, what was it?
It something small to fit on a.
It replaced Quiet Place. So we thought Cookies was what was this Quiet Place code name?
Quiet Place code name is Cookie.
But before that, it switched with something.
What they thought it was. It never switched.
Switched. Not in real life, but like on the maps.
No, yeah.
I'm trying to. I don't remember, because I always thought Cookies was Insidious for the longest time, because it's just like you eat cookies, before bed or something, like sort of like sleeping or whatever. But
yeah.
So I don't.
Well, we thought Cookies. I think we thought Cookies was Nightmare on Elm Street, right? Because you have cookies before you go to sleep.
I believe it's pudding.
Oh, pudding. Yes, it is pudding.
Pudding.
It is pudding. It is pudding.
I don't know a connection off the top of my head between Insidious and pudding, but I'm sure there's a small little thing.
Honestly, the only connections I don't I can honestly get most of them on here, like putting them together. The only ones I can't get are Quiet Place Cookies and Triplets of Terror Fudge. Everything else, I'm like, okay, like even Sunday, I know a lot of people were thinking Goblins was donuts because like Munchkin donuts, so that kind of makes sense. But now I'm thinking like Sunday brunch, so that I get it, because if it's a feast, like that would make sense for Goblins. But I don't get Cookies and Quiet Place or Fudge and Triplets of Terror. Those are the only two.
Yeah, Fudge should be cake. It should be like birthday cake, right? It should be
cake. Right. That's too easy. Like a birthday thing, like that's directly.
I mean, it's too easy
because
you don't know what fucking.
Okay,
you didn't know what Triplets of Terror was going to be.
S'mores is the only direct one though. That is unusual for them to go that direct.
Blonde is pretty direct.
Yeah, I guess it gives you kind of a region, sort of.
Yeah, I think. Oh, baklava is like.
I don't think that's obvious because it's just a museum.
Well, because we thought it was going to be the Greek one, right?
Yeah. But it's a lot more. They might have Greek stuff in it, obviously, but it's definitely a lot more than that.
Definitely more than that.
So you would have never without any rumors, you would have never just made the connection. You know what I mean? So I'll be interested. We'll find out when people start doing Unmasking the Horror tours, because the guides always say.
Absolutely. Are we ready to move on to the next piece of news?
Fucking code names.
Well, what are you talking about? That's the best thing we got this episode.
Boo this man.
I'll start this one off because it's really fun. It's Universal news, but it's on the same day as HHN, so we're gonna keep it in this sort of category here. But August 30th is National Frankenstein Day. I did not know that, but it is. And on Universal's website, they've said that guests can meet and greet with the monster at the Five and Dime that day. Likely just during the day for day guests. I doubt it's going to be during HHN, but I guess maybe, but I doubt it. And I thought this is a kind of very fun way to celebrate opening night. You get a lot of people get there early, getting ready for the stay-in screams and stuff. And imagine just while you're getting ready for the night, just meet Frankenstein before you hop into the stay-in scream. Like, that's kind of fun, really getting the horror spirit on.
Yeah, I mean, I probably will not partake. I'm not much of a meet and greet guy myself, but I do think it's a cool little thing, and it's nice that it lines up perfectly. You can have a little fun with that.
Hmm. Definitely cool. I don't remember them doing this before, so I think that's a nice thing, and probably a fun way to promote Epic. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge about Epic Universe too. Like, you
Mm.
want to see him again? Come to Epic Universe.
Now, what I need them to do is a Frank, like a hot dog, a special hot dog,
Ooh,
like a Frankenstein. I was trying to
I
think of
like
I was
that.
trying to think of a fun name, but I can't. But
They
a
had
Frank.
like the Twisted Frank Tater, right? And that was the one with the hot dog and the Twisted Tater
Yeah,
around
yeah,
it.
but I'm talking like an actual like hot dog, like a special
Ooh,
hot dog,
that'd be good actually.
just for the day, just for National Frankenstein Day.
But
Just
don't
one
put a
day.
bunch of colors in the bun. Don't
Oh,
make it like a
you know they're
cream
gonna want
bun.
to do green or something.
Yeah, and put a bunch of fucking food dye in the bun.
They're gonna have like mushrooms sticking out to be the screws.
Ah, not a hot dog. Yeah.
All right, well, let's move on quite a bit further away than our local park, where we're going to go for HHN International news. And we actually have news for both of the international HHNs. Let's start with Universal Studios Japan, where we don't 100% know if this is HHN yet, but you'll see why we think it definitely is. And that's that they've released that the anime and manga Chainsaw Man will make its first appearance at Universal Studios Japan later this year. The direct quote about it is unpredictable developments await. Experience the dark and chaotic world. Again, no specific confirmation that's HHN, but it was released with a poster. This poster was very HHN esque. It was gory, it was bloody. It just did not look like something they'd put for uh, day guests or day use at all.
There's no way, right? Like even the main
No,
character. When
no,
I'm gonna be honest, I have no idea what. Like I'm not really familiar with this anime
no.
or
Neither
manga
am I.
like at
I know
all.
nothing about this.
Zero.
Yeah.
The only thing I know about it is when I looked at this, I looked it up to see what it was, and I can tell you, none of it was like gory. This like outright in your face when I was just looking up the property. I'm sure like it
Oh,
happens in the show, right? But like none of the like images that showed up were like that. So like I feel like they definitely intensified it for HHN. The
it feels
poster,
like
not
it.
necessarily the show could be fucking gory as shit, right? I don't know, but the image itself.
Ooh. That's cool. I mean, that's an awesome like if it is coming to HHN and it's an IP, that's a fun IP. Like I'm not super familiar with this, but I know this anime is really popular. Like I've when people brought it up on like certain servers, a lot of people are like, "Whoa, this is coming! That's crazy!" Like I think a lot of people are like super excited for this, and I think it's really cool for an anime to potentially come to Halloween Horror Nights. Has it been done before? I feel like it has in Japan, but I could be wrong. Like in just an anime, like in general?
At HHN,
Yeah. Or is this like the first time?
I want to say it was, but not as a house. Obviously, this isn't confirmed to be a house. It just says experience. We don't know what it's going to be. I feel like there has been, but
They've done animes, I
It
think.
wasn't like a house. They've done it in like scare zones and like the shows. Have they done a house?
I think they have. I'm sure. I quite certain that they have.
It's possible. I'm pretty sure, regardless, they have had a presence at the event in some way.
Very
I'm sure
cool.
there's someone who is an expert on HHN Osaka, but we are not them.
No, no, not quite. I try to know some. Uh, Hamikuma. There we go. I know that.
Hmm.
What's
Oh,
Hamakuma?
Hamikuma's the bear. Like, you don't know the bear?
Is it their a version of HHN
Yeah,
bear?
basically, but it's an adorable teddy bear instead.
It's a
Yeah,
kawaii
it's
HHN bear.
Kawaii HHN bear, exactly.
Uh,
That sounds adorable.
Hamikuma.
there we
It's
go.
like their mascot.
Sorta, yeah, it's kind of grown into that. I don't know if I'd fully call it the mascot of the event, but it definitely has its own presence that is well known.
I'm gonna have to look this up. This fucking bear.
Oh yeah, you're gonna fucking love Hamikuma, Mike.
All right, I'm looking it up. Okay, all right. I see him.
Yeah,
I see him.
yeah.
I do like. I do like this guy. I can't really describe him, but he's good. He's like missing an eyeball. His eyeball's falling out. He's got like looks like his insides are all jacked up.
Mm-hmm. And please,
Uh,
like, there's videos of him just like dancing. You have to find them. They're so good. They're so good.
I do like this Hamikuma.
But while Mike takes that in, Jonathan, would you like to take us over to Singapore?
Yeah, and for Universal Studios Singapore, and this one is directly confirmed to be for their Halloween Horror Nights, which this is their 12th year, which is super cool. They announced their first IP house, and I'm pretty sure their first house this year in general, and that is Netflix's Sweet Home, which I think is a series, like a show on
Yeah,
Netflix.
it's a Korean series.
Very cool. And the description says, be transported into the creepy hallways of the hit streaming series, there it is, Netflix's Sweet Home, and try not to fall victim to the grotesque once human monsters. But hurry and escape, or you risk becoming one of them. Ooh.
Ooh.
It also said, another article sort of expanding on it said, we'll immerse visitors in the series, and they're going to recreate locations in the area, like the apartment, which I'm pretty sure is the main apartment the show takes place in, and the basement in the Green Home complex.
Now, unlike Chainsaw Man, I have heard of this, and it's like a show that people actually kind of rave about. Uh, but I have not yet watched it, so I'm not very knowledgeable. But I do know that this is something that is very highly regarded, and that is recommended for all of us to take time to watch.
You definitely need to check it out. It sounds fun. Like even the little uh video they gave for this, it wasn't really like a promo video. It just had like a couple of clips from the show and it ended, so we didn't really include it here. But those couple of clips kind of looked really weird and fun and horror, and I was like,
Mhm.
okay, I might want to check this out.
We'll have to watch it, even if we don't make it to Singapore.
It,
We'll get there one of these days. One of
yeah,
these days.
this is Singapore's third collaboration with Netflix, I think, because they had Stranger Things, then they had the one last year. I forgot what it was called. They had another special IP. It was like a zombie
Mhm.
IP last year.
Yep.
And then they have this. So this is their third collaboration. So that's kind of cool.
Very unique for Singapore. I mean, it's not unique anymore, but Singapore has always much been known for being extremely original heavy or just completely originals. And they're definitely expanding out and getting some IPs. And I think that's, as someone who loves originals, and from what I've seen from afar, loves what Singapore does, I'm sure for drawing in an audience, grabbing IPs like this is a huge deal.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm sure this isn't the last IP we're going to see on their lineup this year. I'm expecting at least one more.
Yeah, I think they'll probably get at least two.
Yeah. Well, all right. Are we ready to move on from the international HHN news?
I think we're ready to move on from HHN as a whole for a minute.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Let's dive right into it, right? This is a topic that I was really wanted to talk about last week, but we didn't have the time. We had a lot to cover. But we're going to talk about it this week because it is absolutely wild and very extreme. And that is Six Flags Fright Fest is sort of rebranding a little bit, and it's becoming Six Flags Fright Fest Extreme. And the reason why it's extreme, besides sort of ticket changes and the way prices are, we're not focusing on that, is that they're adding a ton of IPs to their events across their their Six Flags parks. Not every park is going to get all these IPs, but some of them will, and some of them will have even exclusive ones specifically for them. And the IPs that they listed that are going to be part of some of these parks or all of these parks are Stranger Things, Wild, Saw, but they specifically said like the Saw universe, like it's kind of all the movies of Saw. It's not just Saw X or anything like that,
Okay.
like it was in the previous years. The Conjuring universe, which means The Conjuring, Annabelle, and The Nun. Army of the Dead, the Netflix show from Zack Snyder. Trick or Treat, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, actually specifically the Netflix one, that will be exclusive to Six Flags Great Adventure, and Deceased, which is a comic series in the DC Comics universe that will be exclusive to Six Flags Mexico.
Hmm.
Very interesting.
Hmm. Um, I am going to try to be optimistic about this as a haunt fan because I think this could be a very good thing. I will say, after what we saw last year with Six Flags only having The Conjuring and Saw, um, rightfully we can have concerns, right?
Mm-hmm.
One, they didn't have the houses ready for opening night. Um, they were still working on the houses after they opened, and not like, oh, we need to add some things to flesh out the experience. Like, no, they still needed to finish the house. The
Yeah,
sets
it
were,
seemed like a very last
yeah,
minute
yeah,
thing.
the sets
There
were
was
very bare bones and generic. Um, Last year, it really felt like they were getting these IPs just to have the IPs and had no interest in actually doing them justice. I would hope now that they're investing more in a lineup like this that they will feel the pressure to execute them well. I, I don't know if I expect that. I just really hope that's how it goes.
uh, I think this is interesting. It when it comes to mostly focusing on HHN Hollywood.
Mm,
Like this seems like a little bit of a shots fired when it comes to um you know, Magic Mountain really try to get some of the clientele away from kind of doing what um HHN Hollywood is known to do. They used known to be very IP heavy and kind of trying to get a certain type of crowd, and then you have Knott's in Anaheim doing similar to kind of what HHN Orlando does. Um and being more original focused. It's interesting to see that there's competition now, and they seem to be really investing a lot of money into trying to um, go, to take them on. At least in that market, um, head on. And it's interesting also is that they also the parent company that now owns Six Flags and Cedar Fair Parks also owns Knott's Berry Farm. So
hmm
Mm-hmm.
in that market, they have two of the three main haunts in that area, and they really looks like they're really trying to invest money into making Six Flag Fright Fest a competitor directly with HHN Hollywood.
hmm I
Yeah,
I
it's
agree that's what they're doing, but again, I go back to my one concern being, especially after last year, are they thinking that getting the IPs is enough?
I mean, they're not trying to get us stuff. You have to realize that they're trying to get a certain type of
Oh
clientele
no,
that
I
goes to
I
Fright Fest,
oh I know, but I'm saying
and they're
even
not appealing to the people who listen to this podcast.
but
The,
that is enough. If is simply having the IPs enough to pull away from HHN?
I don't think it's going to completely take over HHN, but I do
Oh
think
no.
it will definitely boost their event, and
Oh, for sure.
it will definitely make if they can undercut HHN's premium price at least a little bit and have something to offer in that area that's like, you know what, I could um go to HHN and pay this exorbitant price and stand in these 3 hour lines, or I could pay a little bit cheaper and go to Fright Fest and get similar IP experience, and as well as getting to walk a 45-minute wait for a Stranger Things house. The quality isn't going to be there, but these 14-year-old 15-year-old kids are not they're not they're not noticing the nuances and especially when the quality of HHN Hollywood is we're not talking like it's Orlando. I think they're going to be obviously there's still a big difference in quality between an HHN Hollywood and a Fight Fest house, at least from what we have seen. But if they can get these qualities up just a little bit, I think it's gonna be it's going to be interesting to see if they can't um, compete with them directly. I don't think it's ever going. They're ever going to overtake them or anything. But it looks like they're looking to be another horse in the race for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree with all those points, and I will say, I could see this causing at least HHN Hollywood if their event is at least because let's take in let's maybe say maybe they got Conjuring and Saw late, like maybe that's what happened last year. They got it late. That's why the houses open late. Crossing fingers, that's what happened. And it was a late decision, and that's why they turned out the way that they did. And I know not all of their houses look like that. Like I think some of them are okay. Just Saw and Conjuring did not look good. They just didn't. That's just sort of a fact, unfortunately. So maybe that was a late game. Now that they've had, hopefully, I'd assume time for these IPs. Hopefully they could be better than Saw and Conjuring, where hopefully they can be somewhat decent. And I do think that I don't think it will affect HHN right now. I like especially their first year. I think they really need to prove themselves that their houses are actually okay, that are decent. But I do think down the line, you guys are saying if they keep getting heavy hitter IPs like this, I mean, Stranger Things right off the bat is bigger, even though HHN did it, it is still bigger than every rumored IP. Oh, almost. I guess that maybe on the same level. No, Stranger Things as a property is bigger than every rumored IP or announced IP coming to HHN Hollywood this year. It is. It's Stranger Things.
100%.
Yeah.
And I would argue Saw and The Conjuring are as well.
Conjuring probably definitely
Conjuring.
is.
Definitely The Conjuring.
Yeah. Saw there's an argument, but The Conjuring definitely. So like if they can keep hitting these IPs, that might force HHN, both coasts, because they're both connected. Like it's they're gonna both try to get together with IP holders to say, all right, we need to get these fucking huge things, because the normal average person who just wants to get scared, if Six Flags proves that they are okay, and not bad, but like actually just decent, they might go, listen, it's in the same area, kind of, and I could either go to HHN Hollywood one night or Six Flags one night, and I want to get scared. And Six Flags has Stranger Things, and HHN Hollywood has Ghostbusters. I don't give a fuck about Ghostbusters. I'm going to go to Stranger Things. I mean, that's a fun example. Obviously, I don't think it's going to affect this year, but I think that might encourage HHN Hollywood, or both, to say, hey, we really need to aim to get the properties that are really going to get people in, because now there is another haunt because they were like one of the only haunts that did IPs like ever. This is last year was new for Six Flags with Saw and Conjuring, but now they're like changing. Once again, they're not super complicated, but they are changing the game because this doesn't really happen. This is like the coolest thing ever that haunts are sort of fighting with IPs.
And I think we're already seeing it with HHN's lineup this year. The rumored lineup for IPs is drastically different than what we normally get, and that's because there is another market out there that's shopping around. If Six Flags can offer these IP holders a better deal and say a little bit more money because they're not using it just at one park or two parks, they're using it at multiple parks, and they're getting more value because they're offering Stranger Things a better deal. It's going to be harder moving forward for HHN to get some of these IPs, and we might have to see down the line Murdy to shift and start being more original focused. And it's going to be interesting to see if that is the shift they make, or if they just double down, triple down, and we start getting a bidding war on some of these properties.
Yeah. And could this be a reason? Because obviously everything that happens in the haunt community, when you're working for people, like you're in the behind the scenes, I'm sure everyone knows everything around the area. Everyone talks to each other. Like I have a feeling Halloween Horror Nights knew what Six Flags was gonna do this year. I don't think that's really gonna be a surprise to them or anything like that. Do you think this might be a reason that, like, for some reason Hollywood has like a major, like, rumored to have a major IP only on their side and not Orlando's? Like, the rumor, rumored right now that Hollywood is going to have a weekend exclusive. And it's like, why the hell would it be an exclusive just for Hollywood? Why wouldn't it be both? And I still don't know why it's both, but like them having an exclusive huge property over there is definitely going to help them fight. Maybe not specifically this year, but in future years, if they get like huge exclusive properties, Six Flags, near them, showing their Stranger Things card or showing the Conjuring card, they can say at least we have something big over here, or something like that. I don't know. It's so interesting. There's so many different things that might come of this.
Well, it's funny you bring up that angle because I was going to mention how you were discussing how this could make HHN on both coasts kind of have to adjust because they work together on IPs.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to say, what if it actually almost shifts us apart, where Hollywood kind of actually has to fight like an IP battle with competitors in Orlando? They just don't have to worry about that.
They
No.
don't because there's not a Nutsberry farm down the road that it's not the same type of thing here in Orlando. We have basically the market cornered. That's not the
Fully.
case over
No.
in Hollywood.
Exactly.
They
Hollywood thrived on being where you could go for IP haunts.
Mm-hmm.
Six
And now
Flags is going to bite into that a bit.
So now they have to. I mean, they don't think they have to, but they should. Sort of fight back a little bit, like you said. And now maybe that's the weird reason that this is the weird thing that everyone's like, why would Weekend be an exclusive over at Hollywood? It's the biggest. If it was on our coast, it'd be the headliner. Like, why is it the exclusive? And maybe that's why. Maybe like HHN was like, maybe he was expensive, and they said we're gonna only do one coast. Because we need it over here because there's actually IP competition, not just haunt competition, but IP competition in terms of popularity. And maybe that's why he's just there.
yeah.
Now, I do think we also have to discuss some of the discussion around what this has meant for HHN currently, what their current lineups look like, because I've heard a lot of doom and gloom, and like HHN should be embarrassed that their lineup looks like theirs does, but Six Flags has all that power. And I just want to run through these IPs real quick. Stranger Things, HHN's had it 3 times. Most recently, last year. Saw had it multiple times. Never had The Conjuring. That's great. Army of Dead, no one cares, let's be honest. Trick or Treat, they've had it multiple times if you consider a scare zone in Orlando as well. Texas Chainsaw Massacre, they will most likely have this year in Hollywood.
Right. Which is why it's probably going to be exclusive at Great Adventure in New Jersey.
Exactly. Like a Mississippi kind of deal, east-west of Mississippi.
Exactly.
Deceased, international. Honestly, I don't think HHN
in a
is going for
long-term deal.
DC.
Six Flags has a long-term deal with DC properties.
So I don't like if they rolled out this lineup this year. I think people would not be happy. They'd be stoked to finally have The Conjuring, but they'd be like, Stranger Things again, Saw again, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which you're getting anyways, again. What the fuck's Army of Dead? Would be a lot of responses. I don't think if you put this lineup in Hollywood, people are super excited about it, like they act like they would be.
Probably not. And the thing people need to consider too is, once again, last year when Saw and The Conjuring opened at Six Flags, huge IPs, huge. They were not good houses. They were not. Like, watch videos, they're not good. And while I do think these, when they come out, will probably be better than those, I really hope they are. I'm crossing my fingers they're better. They're not going to hit HHN Hollywood quality. They're not going to. Like, I'm like, we haven't seen them yet. Maybe there's a magical miracle where they do, but the reality is HHN Hollywood has been doing this for how many years, and they have, they've been doing this for so long. And Six Flags, this is their second time tackling IPs, especially IPs as big as these. And they obviously do not have as much money as HHN Hollywood does. Their tickets are only like, I think for a day pass are like $70, which is an increase from years prior, I'm pretty sure. So they're not going to have the same amount of money. They're not going to have the same amount of time put into them, just based on how much time. They're not going to be as good. So don't expect these to be HHN level quality, because they're not going to be. And that's something just you should expect. That's not a bad thing. It's just they're not going to be the quality that you get from HHN.
Yeah. Now, if I had to speculate, I do think um, Texas of all these IPs, if there is one that HHN Orlando was potentially would have gotten if there wasn't another dog in the race that probably negotiated, like Duff said, some sort of Mississippi deal, and that HHN Orlando was probably going to get it, and then decided, you know what, it's not worth it. But Hollywood, really did put it down, and they came up with this sort of deal, is Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I do think
Oh.
in a world where if they didn't um, put their in that, I do think Orlando probably would have got Texas.
Mhm.
I think that is probably would have been our fifth IP. There was a lot of rumors around Texas as well.
That would make sense if there was some legal rule why, because Orlando always tries to hit the 5-5, like they always do, and Orlando probably could easily get Texas, like anytime they've had Texas. How many times? Like they can bring Texas back probably without a sweat. Um, but they didn't this year, even
They
though they
didn't. It
do.
probably just got too expensive. They probably said, you know what, Six Flags, you can have it.
Yeah,
We don't, we don't need it. And the rights holder probably said, okay, then Hollywood, you'll have it because that. And Six Flags, you'll have it on the East Coast because because Orlando doesn't want to pay for it.
I
It's
do.
very likely something like that happened with
I do wonder if it's
Texas.
a
It's
different
very interesting.
situation with rights holders though, because they did this one specifically based on the Netflix film,
Mhm.
and Hollywood is rumored to be based on not any specific film, but following like the original films. Um, so maybe there's also like a thing with that because I mean, right now Six Flags probably got a Netflix deal. They probably got a Netflix bundle with
They
Stranger
did. I
Things,
think they did
Army of the
because you
Dead, and
got
Texas
Arm of the
Chainsaw.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so I
So
would assume
the
that's
race
what
holders
happened.
would be different in that case.
Hmm.
Although, I mean, you're still paying for with the IP. The rights holders are different, but I mean, you still probably have to negotiate.
Mhm.
No, there, no compete clauses and stuff like that. I
Mhm.
mean,
Hmm.
the name itself of Texas Chainsaw Massacre probably is, I don't think Orlando could roll one out too. There was probably a lot of red tape there.
Yeah.
With that, let's move on to our main segment, where we're going to hop back over to Orlando and we're going to discuss nothing really HHN related at all. But of course, we have to talk about Dark Universe coming to Epic Universe. We have the official announcement and plenty of additional details that we are so excited to go over because this land sounds phenomenal.
Oh my god.
Yeah, and we got a lot of information.
A
Hmm.
lot, a lot. So let's just start with the base kind of description of what the land is itself. They say the journey to Dark Universe begins the moment guests enter its electrifying portal, which harnesses the dark energy of Darkmoor. As guests step foot inside, that same energy will pulsate throughout the entire village and connect at the top of Frankenstein Manor, the towering focal point of Dark Universe. Nestled within the blackened stone walls of the town, guests will embark on unique adventures where they can get made up to look like their favorite monsters, spin through the woods aboard a thrilling family coaster, enjoy unique dining establishments, enter Frankenstein Manor to brave Universal Orlando's most chilling ride ever, and more.
So
I,
beautiful.
I want to do all of it. I want to do all of it.
Oh, I want it now. I
I
want
know, right?
it.
We are coming very close. Like we will, in
Yeah, less
less
than a
than a
year.
year, we will be in there,
Crazy.
which is insane to think
This Yeah, this announcement, I mean, I know we were all excited for it and we're going to get deeper into it. But this announcement exceeded my expectations for what this land is, cuz I was like, maybe, maybe it's Universal Monsters, maybe Universal sort of cautious a little bit, about how much money and they're going to put into it right now, until it's proven that it does really well or something. How much is actually going to have compared to the other lands that are IPs that are most likely 100% going to succeed no matter what they did. And no, this announcement really shows that they're putting so much love, care, time, money, and so much more into this land that I'm absolutely way more hyped than even I was before, which I didn't think was possible.
Well, do you want to kick us off with something where a lot of that money probably went?
Almost all the money, I'd assume, the way they were talking about it. Yes, the land's main ride, the e-ticket of this land, and probably an e-ticket of Epic Universe, Monsters Unchained: The Frankenstein Experiment. It is Universal Orlando's most terrifying attraction yet. This state-of-the-art dark ride takes guests deep into the catacombs of Frankenstein Manor, where Dr. Victoria Frankenstein conducts her twisted experiments. In a vain display of her genius, she she invites guests into her laboratory to witness a demonstration of her ability to control monsters. But her plans go awry when her attempts to control the most dangerous of monsters, Dracula, fails, unleashing a horde of enraged monsters. Guests are then thrust into an intense ride through the darkness as they try to evade the grasp of the Wolfman, the Mummy, the creature from the Black Lagoon, the brides of Dracula, and others, including who else was on there? The Phantom was on there, on the poster.
He looked a little different,
He
to say
did.
the least.
I think that's all of them, right? That's the Phantom, and then I know Alicia Stella has hinted that Hunchback is also rumored. But yeah, I think that's all of them that were on
Mhm.
that poster there.
And now, before we even talk about it, if you look at the video and then also some comments from some of the creators on social media, uh, the animatronics in this are going to be insane. Insane. And you get a glimpse of one. It's kind of in the dark, but you can see the movement, and it's of Wolfman. Um, there were people who thought it was CGI.
Mm-hmm.
It
I,
is an animatronic,
Yeah, it's going to be incredible.
and there's going to be apparently quite a few of those level of animatronics within this. So, yeah.
Absolutely mind blowing. Like I thought it was CGI too when I first saw it. Like I was sort of watching half of it work, and then I looked at it again like, wait, that's fucking real.
Hmm.
It moves so fast. Even in that little brief shot, it really looks like a wolf man. Like it animalistic features, and it moves so fluidly that you would never think there was just a robot under there. And I guess now it's starting to become more normalized because there's park like Disney and that's showing these high, advanced animatronics for like Tiana's and other parks, other Disney parks and other parks around the world are getting these advanced animatronics as well. But just like these look, this little clip right here looks absolutely stunning, and I'm so interested to see what all of the other monsters look like who are
Hmm.
our animatronics.
And you mentioned how like we have seen animatronics of like such an incredible level, but like the fact that we're gonna get it for the Universal monsters,
Mm-hmm.
and I I'm speechless, honestly.
Did any of us ever expect this? Like before Epic Universe was the thing, like, yeah, Universal Monsters would get a ride, and they'll all
Yeah.
have like expensive as hell animatronics and a whole like scary ride featured around them. Like this is
Yeah,
madness. This is so
maybe
cool.
scary ride, maybe,
Yeah.
but that it would have got the cash cow animatronic haul? No, absolutely not.
Well, I
Mm-hmm.
remember back in 2019 when we got through that Universal Monsters, there was a lot of talk about how that could just be um, a standalone attraction, something
Mm,
similar, just a walk-through thing, could be around year round. I think that could have been, they're like, hey, just wait, and then they developed this, based on some of those rumblings. This is just thousand times more incredible. But yeah, there was definitely talk back then that we could get something like this.
Do we want to talk a little bit about some of the specifics from the video on this attraction? like the ride vehicles, the some of the stuff like that?
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah. So as you can see from the all the pictures of the attraction, and also a lot of this comes that we're gonna say also comes from Alicia Stella on her podcast Theme Park Stop. She gives a lot of info and rumors about this ride and Epic Universe, and please follow that. It's amazing. But yeah, these are Kuka arm uh vehicles, just like the ones in Forbidden Journey. Except they're not from the arm isn't like from behind you, but it's like from under you, so there's like a lot more different types of movement that it can do. Um, and as you can see, the ride vehicles themselves, they don't have like Forbidden Journey. It has little like walls in between each seat, so you can't really see left and right. You can only see sort of what's straight in front of you, or you can barely see up and down. But these have no walls in between them, so you're gonna be able to see everything around you, which is really cool.
Yeah, it's almost tough for me to picture exactly how this is going to look when you're on the quote unquote track, ride path, whatever it may
Yeah.
be. Like it's just I truly cannot see and envision what this is actually going to feel and look like.
Mm-hmm.
I hope that there's a good balance of screens versus not. That's my hope here is that I hope it's not just like super screen heavy. I think there will be screens, but I hope there's a
Hmm.
good balance.
It sounds like there should be plenty of physical sets that you're going through as well.
Speaking of physical sets, or at least a physical prop, they confirmed that the Phantom of the Opera is going to be there, and you're going to see the organ,
Hmm.
and it's going to have like real flames coming out of it. Like I think they give a specific number of flames, but there's gonna be real flames coming out of it, and it's gonna like
42
dance.
flames.
Yeah, it's gonna dance in like a rhythmic, motion to like the music. Now, that's like a physical prop right there, and that's fucking awesome.
There's so much, so much about this attraction that's exciting.
This is like I know I'm seeing so many like weird like videos or whatever. Like, well, is Epic Universe like like is that going to be a massive flop? This is a huge risk. Is Universal going to do this? I really think if this ride is everything that they're promising, and that this is like the scariest ride Universal has ever done, and the all these animatronics and sets and effects, like it doesn't even matter what the land is. Like the land could be bad. Like it's not probably not going to be. It's going to be looks like it's going to be great, but the land could be garbage. But if that e-ticket at the end of the land is one of the best rides ever created, the land's going to be packed.
Hmm.
That's all it really needs. Like at the end of the day, and it really looks like they're fulfilling that. I feel like they know that too. Like this is a big risk. Is the monsters. A lot of people coming here are families, and little children don't usually want to meet Wolfman and stuff like that. But if your ride is one of the best things ever, people are gonna come to the land regardless. And yeah, I'm just really really stoked for this.
Well, Jonathan, it's funny that you mentioned kind of the family friendliness level because you may have noticed there's also a coaster that
Mm-hmm.
happens to be a family coaster, which we've now learned is called Curse of the Werewolf. Deep in the woods that sit on the edge of Darkmoor, guests will find Curse of the Werewolf, a spinning family coaster inspired by the Wolfman. Guests will enter the encampment of the Guild of Mystics, where they'll be greeted by Maleva, the guild's all-knowing seer and leader, who warns them that they bear the mark of the werewolf. Guests then board a wagon and venture into the forest, racing to escape the werewolves before they become one themselves. It does look like a pretty, I don't want to say standard, but it's a spinning family coaster, right? Like, we've seen things along these lines. It's not going to be the most intense thing in the world, but it's a very good option that should still be a fun enough attraction for everyone.
Yeah, and it seems like has a decent amount of theming
Hmm.
here too. I don't think it looks like one of those, straight out of the factory. Throw some things there. It looks like it's going to be some decent amount of original theming.
Hmm. Definitely.
And whoever made that concept art that shows like the wolf in the shed or whatever it is, like in on the ride, gets a raise. They should get a raise because like that was, I think, the piece of concept art that every single person was like, holy fucking shit! Like even more so than the Frankenstein one. It was this specific picture that everyone went crazy over because it looks so good. And it's funny because I'm pretty sure right now, I mean, if you look for the fly through videos and everything, it looks like these wolves that are in the wolfmen that are in the little indoor portion of the ride are just static figures. I don't think they move. Like it doesn't look like they move. Um, I don't think Alicia Stella thinks they move either. Um, but like that concept art was so good that everyone's just like, this is the coolest thing ever. When in reality, it's going to be cool, but they're kind of just probably statues.
Yeah, Velocicoaster-esque in that way.
Exactly. It's moving so fast, you're probably not even going to notice. And they have ones on each side, which is cool because the coaster itself or the vehicle has people on like both the left and right
Hmm.
of it. Like they're not facing each other, which is kind of cool. Does anyone have any other like deep thoughts about this? I do think it's gonna make the land like besides the coaster being probably like a fun time for families. The fact that it sort of goes right through the land, like right by the windmill, the burning windmill bar or like little dining area. That part looked cool. Like it just sort of going over the land. That kinetic energy is probably gonna feel so good walking through it.
Hmm. I think anytime you can get some kinetic energy going in a land, especially the way this one's kind of laid out, where you have like separate chunks of where you are in Darkmoor, right? Um,
Hmm.
so I think that'll really help that section back there.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and it's definitely, I think, definitely going to boost the wait time that it's, you get such a close look of that windmill icon of the section. Like, yeah, you're definitely, I think this is going to be a bit more than just like Flight of the Hippogriff is. It's definitely going to, I think, hold its own as, um, the second tier attraction of the
Mhm.
Hmm. Well, are we ready to jump into dining?
I'm ready to dine for real. So yeah, please, let's do it.
All right, let's talk about the main like the biggest quick service. I'm pretty sure it's quick service, like more fancy quick service. I think whatever. Das Steakhouse. And the description is Darkmoor's most ominous restaurant. This establishment is a dining hall run by vampire familiars, quote unquote, who size up unsuspecting patrons to be part of the vampire's feast. Surrounded by artwork and artifacts detailing the history of the village's creatures of the night, guests can enjoy a menu of kebabs, burgers, sandwiches, and more. And for those who don't know, kebabs are just uh, so you can have steak on
on
a
stage.
steak.
How clever. Um,
Very clever.
y- I'm just here for the pun.
Yeah, it seems
Uh,
like a solid option. I think this is going to be fun.
this looks really cool. Because not only is it like it's just a fun little, more fancy quick service, with probably some good options and yummy food and good theming all around. But the fact that your waiters are people bringing you food and stuff are and probably the people you interact with like everywhere in the restaurant are going to be vampires who are sort of like in character, and sort of looking at you and seeing who they want to feast on and stuff like that. It's so cool. Like I kind of want to eat, not even just for the food. I want to eat there just for that experience. Because if they can pull that off and make the establishment like so themed, where even every employee is playing the part, um, that can make this land make this restaurant so much cooler, and also make this land so much more. I don't know, like a real world. Like this is a real place, and that helps tremendously.
Hmm. Now, let's all be honest. We're going right to the Burning Blade Tavern, though, right? Like that's our first choice. I mean, you can't help it; you're drawn to it. So the Burning Blade Tavern, as Jonathan alluded to earlier, was the location where you're going to find um, the literal burning blade, that windmill that is going to be spinning that actually catches fire periodically. kind of akin to a specific dragon at Universal Studios. Um, so you're going to be drawn to it, of course, but the experience also sounds phenomenal inside. Despite the blades of the windmill still smoldering and flaming periodically, Darkmoor's monster hunters have transformed this old fiery mill into their favorite hangout. While enjoying a menu of burgers, wings, bratwurst, pretzels, and specialty beverages, guests will hear stories of the infamous hounds, boastful hunters from beyond Darkmoor, all while surrounded by an impressive display of the monsters' heads they consider their trophies. So definitely kind of more of a almost traditional pub feel, but obviously just deeply immersing you into Darkmoor as a living world.
Imagine just like sipping on a beer, like while you hear it, while they what are they called? The hounds like start telling you their life story and all the monsters they've killed or hunted and all that. Like that sounds so cool. It's another example of just a restaurant or a bar, sort of in between, um, that not only has probably great food, great theming, great atmosphere, but also employees that are in on the story and are immersing you in the story. This is the second example of that. If they can pull that off, this is going to make this land so cool.
And if they have good wings, this is just going to become like my local hangout.
You
I'm just going to go to fucking Epic all the time to
it's
get
good,
wings and grog.
don't need to tell me the stories anymore. I know them all. I know all your
Please,
stories.
I'll tell you your stories. How about that?
Ever hear about HHN? Mike,
right,
I mean, like, are you excited for this place? Like this?
Oh, I'm so excited. I think this is um outside of the e-ticket, I might be most excited about this. This is going to be so cool.
Hell yeah. And let's get into. Oh no, is this the place? Yeah, it is. The Lacey's Cottage, where if you remember, this is from the Bride of Frankenstein, the cottage that the man helps, like, is a friend for Frankenstein and helps teach him how to speak and all that. It's a very cool moment in the movie. But basically it says near Frankenstein Manor sits the Lacey's Cottage food stand, where the original Frankenstein's monsters once received sustenance and friendship. Here, guests can find a variety of snacks and cool treats like cinnamon bread, which feels like the thing most people are talking about, but we're HHN people, so that's not the thing we're looking at the most. Ice cream and twisted taters and more.
I'm only excited if they have salt and vinegar.
That's true. That's true. But we are getting twisted taters in a park every day. Like, it's not. There's no longer a seasonal thing. It's no longer just during Mardi Gras and HHN or whatever. This is something that will be at the DeLacy's Cottage likely every single day in a Universal Monsters themed land.
Mm-hmm.
They knew what they were doing. They knew why they put twisted taters here. Like, it's not a surprise.
Now, I know I'm an HHN person. I'm supposed to be super excited for the twisted taters, but like, have you had Dollywood cinnamon bread?
I haven't.
Like, I'm not even super into just like a cinnamon bread in general or anything more like a kind of sweet bread. That's not really my thing. That stuff is so good.
It is really good.
So if it's anything like that, oh my god, I'm in trouble.
I hope it's. I don't think it'll be quite as good, but I hope it comes close.
I hope it's terrible and that I don't want to get it every time I'm at Epic Universe.
I wonder if this is where we can also get our Blinky cup. They just they just throw all the pizza fries, right? all the HHN staples year round in this cottage.
Listen, if you're not going to give us Reuben fries for HHN, just put it in this land, please.
I feel like Reuben fries kind of fit too, right? Like
they do.
That'd work.
Yeah,
they can absolutely do that.
The steakhouse.
Yeah, there you go.
I will go there
every sauerkraut on there.
Like, what do you want? I'll take the Reuben fries, please. Like, you don't want the steak on the. No, I want the Reuben fries.
Could you put my Reuben fries on a steak?
Oh, that'd be great.
No, I don't mean like a food steak, like a wooden steak.
Just
Like
someone.
Like served to you just sitting on top of a wooden steak.
I mean, either way.
Yeah, I'll take it.
Yeah,
I'll
I'll take
take
it on
Reuben-
top of a ribeye.
God, that'd be so good.
They'll save
Universal,
that for
listen
the
to
HHN
us,
cruise ship that they're building.
please.
All right.
Uh,
Well, that is not all that we have to discuss
There's
about
still more.
Darkmoor and Dark Universe.
There's more.
There is more. One of these is pretty funny because we recently just saw this at Universal Studios
Yeah,
Florida.
I think it was a test.
I think everyone kind of said, "May this is a test." Well, guess what? Darkmoor Monster Makeup Experience will be coming to Dark Universe. Guests of all ages can become fashionably monstrous as they don elaborate face paint and temporary tattoos at Darkmoor Monster Makeup Experience. Here, monster makers
Yeah, I
have
guess the
converted
test went
Dr.
well.
Pretorius. Hello?
Yeah. Hi.
Yeah, sorry,
Okay,
I
hi,
just spoke,
sir.
I
Oh,
spoke
okay.
over you. So
No,
go
you're
ahead and
fine. I
start
just wanted to
again.
make sure.
Yeah, start over. Sorry, that was my
I guess I'll start from the beginning. Darkmoor Monster Makeup Experience. Guests of all ages can become fashionably monstrous as they don elaborate face paint and temporary tattoos at Darkmoor Monster Makeup Experience. I don't like I had to say that twice in a row. That was weird. Here, monster makers have converted Dr. Pretorius's infamous old lab into a parlor to continue the spirit of his demented experiments, and skilled artisans use their talents to transform guests' outer appearances so they can showcase their fandom for the Universal monsters.
So cool. So this is such a smart way to get like little kids into the monsters. Like, yeah, you want to be a wolf fan, or or Frankenstein, or a Bride of Frank. Like, that's a really awesome way to be like, yeah, I'm a monster. I can tackle these more challenging, like the more scary things. It's sort of I feel like it's empowering for a lot of people. So I think this is a very smart choice.
And you brought up earlier how there seems to be kind of a crazy amount of mainly YouTube videos that are like, is Dark Universe a mistake? And stuff like that. And they always just kind of come down to like, well, kids won't like it, so bad idea. One, that on its own doesn't make sense. Two, if you actually look into what Dark Universe is going to have, I don't see why kids wouldn't enjoy this land. They might not like the scary dark ride. Sure, that's possible. But there are like lands that are catered towards kids and families that they don't like the attractions at anyways. What's the difference? They're going to knock out some of the experiences, this face paint experience. They're going to have a family coaster. They're going to have meet and greets. What else do you need?
I mean, Universal has some pretty scary rides. Like it doesn't sound like anything in this is gonna be any scarier than was
Like
what
the
you
Mummy.
yeah, the Mummy, or a Forbidden Journey and the giant spider, or the King Kong ride. Um like this is all on the same level as all that. I mean, from what it looks like. Obviously, we have not done it yet.
And even if, like, let's say, even if this was too scary for kids, like, let's say, oh no, it didn't work, whatever, it's too scary, which is not going to happen. But even if, in that scenario, there's still Nintendo right next door, there's How to Train Your Dragon, there's IP that should not be named. Like, even if this for some reason was a land that maybe kids didn't enjoy, there's 3 other places that they can enjoy. Like, like, not every single land has to be for every single demographic. But I really appreciate that they are trying to make this land for every single demographic with these experiences and things that are family friendly, other than the e-ticket scary ride that's apparently going to terrify people.
And
yeah, this is for like brave kids.
Yeah.
Like that.
Yeah. And I mean, we only have to go to Jurassic Park, the land, to show us that not everything has to be for kids. Like, as this park has evolved, they've literally made Jurassic Park less family friendly. It now has 2 attractions that are just like untouchable for children, literally because they're too short or because it's too scary, right? They have a little kids area, but like it's literally gravitated further away from kids as it's
Yeah.
evolved.
I mean,
Apart,
River Adventure is terrifying.
yeah,
Like, I
Oh,
don't
for a
know,
little
like, that's
kid? Oh
not for
yeah.
kids.
no,
Like,
I don't know if like the people making these videos actually think every land needs to be made for kids, or if they're just looking for a clickbait title and subject to talk about. But I, I don't get why people would think it's a failure. And they're like,
No.
oh well, the IP is not big enough. Well, there's original lands that are big too. So what the fuck's the
I don't know.
difference?
The IP is pretty big.
I mean,
Like,
also yes, they
yeah,
are also wrong in that sense.
the Dark Universe reboot stuff didn't pan out, but it's still a very popular IP.
Mm-hmm.
Every single person knows almost all of these monsters, like
Yep.
Frankenstein, Dracula, Bride of Frank, like the Wolfman. Every you can ask a kid, they'll know what those creatures are. Like it's not a surprise to them. Like this IP is absolutely huge, no matter what people try to say. But the movies came out however many. No one that doesn't matter. That doesn't matter. They're part of society. Everyone knows who they are. Like even if there wasn't a new Mario game out, like it was just the originals, everyone knows who Mario is. Like it does not matter. This IP is absolutely huge.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And also, in Tokyo, they just opened up a land. It's multiple IPs, but one of the large IPs that people are absolutely loving and think is stunning is Peter Pan.
Mm-hmm.
Peter Pan came out in the 50s.
Yeah. My favorite Disney
No one's
movie.
complaining about that.
Yeah. No
I,
one.
I
Everyone's
don't get
actually
it.
raving about it. They're saying it's so
Yeah,
great. It's
fantastic.
amazing.
Yeah, I can't wait to get out there.
So this whole like, and that's mainly for like Sean Nyberg, which obviously he's just a psycho and only wants to make Disney stock higher by talking shit on Twitter. I guess I don't know, um, but like old movie can't use. Well, Disney just did it, and you're losing your fucking mind about it. So
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, and let's be honest. This is clearly trying to be like for the reboot of Dark Universe stuff too. They were hoping for the synergy there, and they just happened to just scrap those after the Tom Cruise Mummy didn't
mhm.
work out. Like there were movies planned
Oh
and
yeah,
shelved
plenty, plenty.
like to go hand in hand with these.
You know what though? I'm happy those movies didn't plan out. I'm so happy because now we have a land that is based on IP. It is, but it's not exactly based on IP. It's based on IP, but shifted enough where it can be its own original thing.
Yes.
Where you have characters that are like the movies, but also not exactly like the movies. They're not the exact versions that we saw in the movies. It's not the exact timeline. They're not following the movies to that preciseness. They're taking these characters, taking what's good about them, making them their own quote unquote original take on them in this land, creating new original characters, creating a whole new land that's original. Like this is, I think, in the theme park world, the closest we're gonna get to like an original land ever. Like I think this is it. This is the closest we're gonna get. Besides, if you count the park in the middle, Celestial Park, which is just sort of like a hub. This is the closest we're gonna get, at least for the main parks, of something sort of. I don't know how to compare it, but like it's closest to something original instead of like straight up. Here's the location from the IPs,
Mhm. Yeah, I mean
and
you're probably right.
And I'm excited. That's what really excites me. That they can really take these characters and do anything, really almost anything they want with this. Sort of like the monster houses at Halloween Horror Nights, tying it back to it. They have the IPs, they have the characters, but they can kind of do things that weren't in the movies. They can just do their own story, and they're doing the same thing here. And it's been proven to work at HHN time and time again. So I'm so stoked to see it here in a full land experience.
Mhm, definitely. Well, earlier I did kind of jump the gun talking about meet and greets, so might as well go into a little bit of detail about those. We started labeling Meet the Monsters. There's always someone or something looming in the shadows of Dark Universe, including monsters who are eager to meet and greet everyone from kids to adults, including Dr. Victoria Frankenstein's monster and the alluring bride of Frankenstein. Guests will also encounter other unusual inhabitants roaming the eerie village, including Victoria Frankenstein's servant Igor, the Invisible Man, an eccentric monster hunter, and a talented musician who regales guests with songs and tales of the classical Universal monster stories.
That last part is so cool. Like, there's gonna be like just a musician walking around, like, maybe kids who maybe don't know the stories exactly, or people walking around just singing the stories, like,
Yeah.
just letting people know what happened with those monsters in like in a fun, you know, like way, sort of like a maybe like a family friendly way. That's so cool. Like,
Yeah,
I'm
there's a
excited to.
bard. It's like a bard. He's gonna go
Yeah.
around and like to tell you the tale of the Frankenstein. I love it. I love it. Can't wait. This is gonna be so much fun. Very campy, but very
I am so looking forward to this.
How do we think they're gonna do the Invisible Man? Like, is he just gonna wear the toilet paper wrap and to walk around, or is there gonna be like a section where like you can meet him and he's like half invisible, half not, like a dedicated like meet and greet area? Well, I guess they said roaming, so I guess he's just gonna be
I
roaming
guess that
around.
answers the
So
question.
yeah, so I guess he's just wearing the toilet paper then. That's gonna be fun. I'm the Invisible Man, but I'm
fun. You
you
can't
won't
see me.
you can't see. uh, Slan's gonna be great.
Yeah, does anyone have any other final thoughts before we get to voicemails?
Um, I'm ready to try the cinnamon bread.
Yeah, I'm ready to ride the
Yeah,
ride.
yeah.
You can...
I'm
I'm
just ready.
having I'm having a hard time right now considering what way to tackle opening night of Epic Universe. Because, like, I want to go to Dark Universe first, but do I want to save Dark Universe to the end, especially that ride, like when it's dark? And is that
Oh
the first
yeah,
time I want to see it when the
I think you
lights
have
are
to see
down?
it in the dark. I think you have to see it in the dark.
That's a
You
good
do
point.
everything else and you end with there.
I think I have to. Like, even if I can't ride the first day, if something happens, like, I think the first time I want to see Dark Universe is when it's like completely dark out and experiencing it that way.
But the
Yeah.
problem is, it's going to call to me. It'll just be a beacon, just drawing me in.
Well, maybe
Like
you
the
see, maybe
song.
you go in the very first, and then you come back at night.
Hmm.
You do it. You double dip.
There we
You
go.
see
That's
everything
true.
else, and then you double dip.
I
And you
do
do it.
double dip my chip, so
Yeah.
Uh,
All right. Well, is there any voicemails?
nope, not
Nope.
today.
No
there we go.
voicemails. Not today. All right.
Well, I mean,
Well,
we, recording like a day after the episode dropped. Didn't leave much time.
yeah, that's true. Yeah, we're canning this episode a little bit. But yeah, you can always leave us a voicemail at 407-906-4134. And you can always follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube at HHN365 and at TikTok at HHN365pod. And we have a Discord that you can join us. The link is in the description. And we'll see you in the streets.